This is Agent Sebastian of the Cart Narcs, and you are listening to The Anthony Rogers Show.
Republican Anthony Rogers has no previous political experience. Rogers, a comedian, is well known for a podcast called The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey man, this is Tommy Chong, and right now you're listening to The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey all you cool cats and kittens, it's Carol Baskin, and you are listening to The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey y'all, this is Kevin from Candlebox. You are listening to the funny man Anthony Rogers.
Hey, my name is Alex Sulkin, writer of Ted and Family Guy, and you're listening to The Anthony Rogers Show. Lucky you.
If you were 21 and older, you need to try some Exhale gummies. They're legal on a federal level and a state level. So if you're eating these, you can eat these on probation. You can eat these if you have a job, the drug test. You can eat these if you have a podcast everybody listens to. So go to Exhale Hemp, link in the description, and get some of these gummies right now. Welcome back to the greatest show in the entire universe. Today we have an absolute legend. If you have a TikTok or an internet account whatsoever, Sebastian from Cart Narcs. How you doing, brother?
Doing well, thank you.
Awesome, and I love the premise. And for those unfamiliar listening or watching, like Sebastian, I'm assuming it's you. Finds people that don't return their cards.
Is that where the cart? She sprayed herself down with Lysol on her body? That's not where the cart goes, man. The cart returns right there and right there.
And then like tells them like what I think is common sense that they should put it back probably and not leave it in the middle of a parking lot.
Bumper magnet. Ta-da! That's our classic bumper, the second edition. It says, "I don't return my shopping cart like a jerk."
Sure. They flip out, like they literally flip out, and
I'm getting a little fucking sick of your shit.
But my stuff is good.
Okay, you don't go away, coward. If you're so fucking such a good dude, don't fucking go away.
Well, do you want to shake my hand or what?
No.
Or do you want to try to hit me? Because I feel like you want to try to hit me.
No. I'm going to take your fucking recording device and I'm going to take...
But it's my property. That's theft.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, no, it is mine.
Because once you got my image on there without my permission, it becomes my property.
No, it's not, because you're in public.
If it is, then we'll go to fucking court over.
I have a lawyer. That's fine.
Well, who's your lawyer?
It's Darren Kavanoki. He works with 1-800-NO-CUFFs.
Get this asshole.
I'm just having a conversation with him.
He's a cart narc.
Like, how did you come up with this premise? Did this just happen one day with you fed up with the lack of common courtesy, or like what is it?
Well, I was. My parents found me abandoned in a shopping cart when I was an infant. It was just talking with a friend of mine at work, and it was just like, yeah, why don't people do that? We were talking about a bunch of different stuff that people don't do, just that are dick moves that everyone recognizes are the jerky thing to do. And the shopping cart one was the one where like, well, of all the things people do that are discourteous to say the least, the shopping carts, it happens in one particular space, so you can find it. It's there. So I just went up and asked somebody initially, and the defensiveness and, like you said, the flipping out started almost immediately. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? So then it just sort of built very slowly, just trying new techniques, trying different little add-ons, outfits, and like you mentioned, it gets more and more ridiculous, but it doesn't stop. That's the thing; it always keeps coming.
Yeah, I don't understand how these people like don't click that. Like it'd be easier just to put your cart back than to argue with you for 30 minutes. Like I say, like they spend like way more energy doing the wrong thing than I think it just doesn't.
That's why like Cart Narcs. It's a weird. It becomes so much more than the carts. It's a weird look into human psychology because, like you said, it would be easier just to say, oh, yeah, I should just do that. But they don't because number one, they know they should. And that's why you get the anger and the resentment and the aggression and stuff like that. It's not just the cart. It's everything else in the world. And it's about them being right, their ego being intact, and them, quote, winning the fight.
Yeah, because I guess everyone's like the good person and the main character in their story, and they don't realize that they're not and they don't even want to admit it when they're not. Like I guess like these people have such a hard time like just being like, yeah, that was stupid and like probably wrong. And that's just they have such a hard time saying that. It's like what's your craziest one that I've kind of skimmed a lot of these. What's like the one that stands out to you is just this guy's nuts.
Oh, well, God, there's so many where that's the other thing, too, is it kind of reveals the level of mental illness that is just like very bubbling below the surface with a lot of people, unfortunately. The most aggressive one that most folks would point to is the guy who pulled a gun on me and then racked the slide back. That was down in Georgetown, Texas. He didn't point it at me, didn't fire it at me, which is why I guess the cops didn't follow up on it. But I've been chased for, multiple times and it's mostly the guys who chase me are mostly 40 plus kind of paunchy dudes who have something to prove. Those are the only guys that really have got. And this one guy here in Pasadena, he's coming at me and his fist is above his head. If you ever watch, Trailer Park Boys on Netflix, Bubbles, where he's telegraphing that he's going to punch me the entire time. But yeah, so that's happened a couple times. Pepper spray, tasers, but no actual real physical encounters. I'm not gonna. As I told a guy in Tennessee a couple months ago, why are you running away? And I just told him, why would I fight you over a shopping cart?
No, it's funny. I love the tough love approach. I mean, society needs these reminders that we should act civilized. I think personally, and I think the cart thing is just a small example of that. I mean, I think we're letting our country and world down way more than just that. It's just kind of insane.
Yeah, that's sort of the premise that I've kind of discovered over the past couple of years of doing this is I talked about this at some point where if you Google image search grocery store parking lots from the 50s, 60s, 70s, they usually didn't even have a cart return. People just knew, oh, I got this from the front of the store. I used it. Now that I'm done with it, I'll put it back where I found it. And then we've just, like you said, but I think as people stopped holding each other accountable, then that's where all these problems come from. It's, when someone says, hey, you shouldn't do that, but they don't anymore. And so people just say, yeah, okay, I won't.
Is there a certain market you've noticed it's worse in, certain city or area?
I consider that a lot, and it's not that it's a specific city, it's the size of the city that makes the difference from what I've found. I've been literally everywhere in North America, and LA's bad, New York's bad, Seattle's bad, Miami's bad. But when the places that aren't bad are the more rural I get, the more small towns, and my hypothesis is where people know each other more. But driving through rural Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, et cetera, the smaller stores where you're going to know more than likely that people you see in there are where the places where I just don't see it as much.
Yeah, I think it's definitely everybody talking and everybody knowing each other. Plus, the values I think still in the small towns. I think they still if I did that I'm from a medium sized town. If I did that, my mom would beat the shit out of me probably. If I was a kid, if I was a kid and I did that, I just think that's the values. I mean, I'm in Missouri, so I think it's just the values of the place you're at. It's I couldn't imagine. That's just a small thing. How many people are just littering and buying single use. I mean, this is just I think you're tipping. I think you said it right when you said you're hitting on the tip of what is underneath all these people, man.
And it's funny you mentioned your mom there, because I see that where a kid or I don't bust adults with small children, but I'll see a teenager or a grown adult with their parents, and they will just leave the cart out wherever, and the parent should be, you would imagine, the one who's hey, what are you doing, you lazy piece of POS? But when they don't, I think that's where you have all this problem, is we don't call out our friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, because we'll get people who'll send us videos and photos of them with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and then make sure you do it, blah 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 blah. But I think we're not willing to, and it's not being rude necessarily, but willing to say, hey, that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, I pulled that on somebody. I was outside of a venue. I do comedy stuff, and I was outside a venue, and somebody broke a glass bottle on the ground, and I was just what would your grandma think if you did that? And then he just started crying. I don't think these people think about it. It was weird. I mean, to be honest, he probably has a lot of other things going on, but it was weird that I think that philosophy, what would these people you love and care about think if you were improper actions? I think kind of has an interesting effect on people, I've noticed, and that's the only time I've ever used it, really. I think, but I was just annoyed that he was breaking glass. It just annoyed me.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle there, because I think that's part of when they see me coming up too, and when they realize, because I usually have a little GoPro strapped onto my vest, and I think that's like, people are going to realize, that I did this. So I actually put up a video just last week. I was talking to a guy about it, and as he and I are talking, there's a guy, a couple lanes over, who we see is about to leave his cart out until he sees us looking at him, and he's like, and he turns around and walks back, and that's all it is. And that's why I usually wait till the moment they've left their cart out, and I try to be behind another car or a tree or whatever, so that, because I notice, I've seen it because I've done this for so many hundreds and thousands of times, is that when they do notice there's a pair of eyes on them, the person won't leave their cart out because they know it's wrong. Yeah. Do you have that vest on when you go? Yeah, this is when we're talking about like the slow progression of it. It used to be just a T-shirt. Then I had like a hunting, not a hunting vest, but like just a little compartment vest. And then after the guy pulled the gun on me, a cop who's not a friend but a fan from Baton Rouge sent. I got an extra vest I can send. He's like, oh, sure, I'll take it. And just so happens to have this where you would put like a bullet, like a special plate for rifle shots and stuff. It happens to have a little pouch. I can mount a little camera there. That's hilarious, man. I imagine like the sheer terror of these people that are like these people. Because most people probably aren't like Fight Club, like how like they're spraying with the hoses. Most people aren't as controversial as like or confrontational rather, as like they want to appear online or something like that. So like most people probably do anything to avoid conflict, and they see a guy like you coming up with like a shirt like a bulletproof vest that says Cart Narcs on it, and you're like, why did you do like that? Almost needs to be in your video. Is like your perspective. Like I love the first man perspective, but you almost see like a third man one of like just seeing like. It's like seeing that vest adds to it for some reason to me. Like it's almost like a funnier thing. I didn't know how you were dressed. I didn't know what you looked like or anything like that. I just knew that like I knew your voice, I guess. And then I was debating between if you're a good person or a shit disturber or both. We kind of layer to add to the silliness. We kind of layer the appearance of some kind of professional organization. We talk about our training, and we have all the wand and the siren I make with my mouth and all that stuff. So that kind of silliness adds to, the them being such an insane person, so that they kind of like, it just kind of piles on, and sort of a weird, like, I don't know, Reno 911 or whatever style ridiculousness to make them seem even more dumb when they're threatening violence and screaming at us. Oh, that's just great, man. I personally think both political parties are dumb, but like this is the kind of mentality you see with like the radical like liberals, like these like they almost want to seem like really good people, and then they fuck up, and it's like your fault. It's almost what I see with them versus like in both parts of their flaws, but that's kind of what I see the kind of people that are drawn to that. It's funny you mentioned that because we get both people in the comments section where depending on what side they're coming from. They'll talk about the person I'm encountering, and they'll say, "Oh, it looks like a Trump, Biden, Hillary, whatever." They'll fill it. They'll project on that person whatever their boogeyman is. And I of course, anytime any of that comes up, I've been called that too. I've been called, "Oh, you must have voted for Trump in person." I'll tell them we're not a political organization. This is just about picking up after your cards. So yeah, it's weird how like they'll look into it, whatever they're looking for. But then to the other point too is the other tactic they'll use with me a lot is they will find every reason why it's my fault for even mentioning it to begin with, and try to, because it's never them. So they try to find 1,000 things I'm doing wrong. Yes, and it's all out of emotion, so I don't think they realize how stupid they sound until later, if they realize it all. It's like in the moment they probably think that they're in the right, or at least trying to project or reflect that, I could definitely come at them from an incredible advantage because I've done this a ton of times, and they've never had, by definition, this has never happened to them. So it's sort of shooting fish in a barrel in that respect, in that, they're coming at me with what they think is genius. I've heard it 100 times. So it's very easy for me to kind of deal with it. But that being said, I still get fresh new things all the time. Insults people throw at me, excuses they make. So it's all the same, but there are little different twists in there, here and there. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard you lose your cool. Have you lost your cool? No, it's that's another part of the whole. I guess what makes me the good guy is that they're yelling and screaming, cussing, fighting, calling me. been called the N-word numerous times, and I'm always super professional, sort of I've been compared to like a SpongeBob character, or like just a Boy Scout Dudley Do-Right sort of thing. And that difference between me being super nice and them being insane and illogical, it kind of highlights the ridiculousness of what they're doing.
It does, no. I go back and forth on my read of you of like Boy Scout or psychopath. I'm not sure. He's like only like there's certain people that like can just hold that or sociopath. Sorry, not psychopath, but certain people can hold that. Like, and I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean that more like comedically. But no, it's I think that adds value to it. I think that adds I think it adds value to that you're not batshit, because like it would just be Jerry Springer if you were batshit too, you know.
Yeah, well, because there are people who have tried it. They've tried either to copy it or to do quote tributes. There was some YouTuber a couple weeks ago who did it actually, and people were sending me the link, and I watched the first like minute of it, and he's screaming at people, he's yelling, he's like being very aggressive, and it doesn't have the same impact, because if you're aggressive, even if you're aggressively screaming at someone to please pick up after yourself, you know. It doesn't work the same way because of that. Because then of course someone's going to react harshly to you.
Yeah, no, I love that kind of like the style of comedy where you just like it's like a Borat kind of style of comedy where like you just like kind of provoke them and you're just like you're just like the good guy the whole time. You're like good copping them the whole time, and they just don't even know what to do. I mean, that one guy, like, he was like this like kind of fat guy. It was like a 3-part episode on your TikTok. It was like he was like this big guy. He kept getting in his car, getting out of his car, getting in his car to talk. I'm like, it's just so bizarre that like that's where your instincts run you. He was like, I mean, this is just to be a human, I guess, or something. But I don't know what's going on in these guys' world where like.
You're going to Florida this summer for spring break, or if you live there, even better. Arcade Monsters is a crazy arcade in Florida, it's the largest arcade in Florida. You need to go there. It's $20 for a limited play, or $19.99 if you want to save a penny, like their advertising says. All ages, bring your kids. Classic arcades, rhythm games, consoles, experimental games, pinball, virtual reality, fighting games, shooting games. They have 3 locations. Go to Arcade Monsters, link in the description, and check it out.
I mean, like, to be honest, if I was like younger, I probably would have made the mistake that you're calling these people out for. But I don't feel like I would even address you. I would just like drive off or something. I mean, I wouldn't even talk to you. Like people try to complain to me all the time. I'm just like I was like working out yesterday on like a track, indoor track, and this lady tried to say something to me, and I'm like listening to music. I just kept listening to music. I mean, I don't really care about other people's opinions that much, but I think that like these people do for some reason. They really care what you think, and they really like just. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like weird that they just bow to a stranger, you know? Maybe it's because they know that it's wrong.
And because people bring up, how come you don't do this to young people? And well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, most 22-year-old men aren't out buying carts and carts loads of groceries. They're carrying stuff out, and they're bachelors, or they have a roommate or whatever. But number two is they more than often they either don't know what to say, or they aren't quite enough. They don't have enough, I guess, problem with authority that older people do. Because the older you get, it seems, the less like you've dealt with enough crap in your life that you're like, I don't know, screw you, I'm right, you're wrong. But yeah, I mean, trust me, I wish everybody was like a 25-year-old linebacker or whatever. That'd be more, but they're not. It's just that's not who mouths off as much.
Yeah, like I couldn't see like it was. I'm like 35 now. I couldn't see me even like being disrespectful to somebody like that. I'd probably just be like, you're right. Like if I even put myself in that situation, I don't even know. Like they must be like, you must be like peeling away at like their boss, their wife, they're all these people they just want to tell fuck you to, and you're seemingly a stranger to them. So maybe that's why I think people do have that where they can yell at a stranger more than they can yell at the people actually like doing anything to them,
Yeah, and the only time that doesn't apply, I think, is at football games. Younger people love, and middle-aged people too, love fighting at football games, because I think that's just and bars, but they come to those venues primed with that sort of attitude, and you don't necessarily have that attitude at a grocery store.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think it's a different generation too, because like when my generation was young, we were assholes. The new generation's kind of like at least wants to be seen as polite, like I don't know if they truly are good, but they at least want to be seen as good. Like, oh, I care about the environment and like all these different people, and they just have like shirts that just say I love black people and shit. It's so fucking weird, and like try hard, it's like really just like it's really. I mean, I feel like if you weren't racist, you wouldn't have to tell people you weren't racist, you know, or if you weren't, you wouldn't have to tell people. I don't know. I touched a lot of things, but I feel like the new generation just like it. Like mine was like how fucked up and crazy you could be. I feel like when I was a kid. Now it's like how good you could be. I guess is like the new thing, you know. And both people pretended to be both almost, you know.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle on it because it's fun because most of our fans are younger just because most of our stuff's on social media, but also. I think because of that, they're more aware of there being cameras around, and when you're out in public, there's a chance you could be on World Star Hip Hop if you act like an idiot or whatever. And then, like you mentioned, it was 20 years ago was the height of Tom Green and Jackass, and speaking of shopping carts, jumping in a shopping cart and running into a bush, sort of stuff.
Yeah, that was like, how old are you?
No, 41.
41, yeah, similar generation, yeah. Like I'm 35, so that's how we were. Like I feel like we're like waiting for the next generation to be crazier. But So where's this going? Like, this could go anywhere. This could be like you could probably make a documentary on. I mean, you have so many different angles. You could take this to streaming services. Like, what's your kind of goal with this whole thing?
That's a good question. We had we had some talk about doing kind of like its own little show, sort of like a hybrid of Reno 911, but with the real life confrontations in there. Like you said, like a Borat style thing. Actually, I'm in my new place here, and it's still obviously not done. But we'll probably start doing like a live PD style version of it. Like one day a week or whatever, where we'll do a live stream with new videos, do like play-by-plays of old videos, best comments, play some of the voicemails we get, things like that. And then I would like to, because I've gotten some interest from some people of varying degrees of note about having guests come along, guest agents or whatever. So little things like that. But yeah, just kind of following like the cops live PD sort of format will probably be the next step, as opposed to just the individual videos.
That's smart, man. Yeah, I know it was like Jackass did that too. Like Brad Pitt was like in like made a guest appearance. So you get these big actors or actresses or musicians or something like that. That could definitely kill. And like your numbers would be easy to convince them to do that. Probably like that's all they really care about is that people see them. Like I've
got a few inquiries from. It's funny too because like the people who've either commented or hit me up on Instagram. It was. John Bones Jones, who unfortunately was a great UFC fighter, maybe the best in his ever, until he got busted for steroids and cocaine and a bunch of stuff. So that kind of sucks. Yeah. And then I heard, and I was just on with Adam Carolla on his podcast. And then apparently another podcast I haven't listened to them yet this episode, but Chris D'Elia was ragging on me. I'm like, damn it, why can't it be someone who's not in trouble? But yeah, well, people like Whitney Cummings, like little comedians and things like that. Minor celebrities. I think would be a fun ride along maybe some point this year.
No, it's smart, and like it's funny because like if these guys call the cops on you, like chances are like I mean you didn't do anything wrong also, but I think that like you wearing like the police get up and being like a police fanboy, appearing as if I don't know if you are, but appearing as if I think that would probably help your cause more. Like if one of us called the cops, they would take your side over mine just off a pure aesthetics.
It's interesting you say that because I've had a handful of encounters. In fact, last week. I was out here in the LA area in Burbank, and we've been here for the longest, and a couple cops came by and they were just like smiling and waving and stuff like that. And I've had cops stop and ask for stickers. But the time when that guy did pull a gun on me in Texas last year, it just so happened there was a police officer leaving the lot right after he left, like 3 or 4 cars later. So I stopped her. She flagged down whoever was in charge in her area. He came over. And he I said, there's a guy who pulled a gun on me in public. You don't want that hanging around. And I showed him the video, and he looked at the license plate, and he's like, okay, yeah, this is who that is. But then the cop wouldn't do anything about it. He's like, look, I called my, district watch commander or whatever. And he said, well, because he didn't point the gun at you, et cetera, et cetera. So he didn't bust me for anything, I think the only thing I could possibly get busted with from what I've talked to lawyers about this too, is some form of like littering, if like, or whatever the ticket would be for putting a flyer in somebody's car, essentially would be a ticket essentially. I'm sure if somebody had a bad day, they always can throw like disturbing the peace at you or whatever, but that would be interesting. I wouldn't want to spend the night in jail for it, but if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, if you're unruly, I could see them pushing these things. But I mean, I think you're in the right in this, and we actually need this in our community. I think, like, because I mean, it starts with just putting your card away. I mean, like, it starts with like small acts of just like handling your shit, you know. And I think that I mean, the world needs that, man. I think like most people probably aren't close to their family or anything like that, and it shows. I mean, it shows in the digression of civilization, you know, and like the decline of the Western world. And I think that people like you are like it's a small, like Neil Armstrong's words, it'd be like a small step for mankind. You know, it really is though. And I think it's a good thing what you're doing, even if it's just funny. I mean, it is funny, you know.
Well, I think that's the problem, because we are, you know, the past couple of years, the whole quote unquote Karen culture has shown the bad side of being a nosy body, obviously, but they're not. First off, most of the time they're in the wrong for the vast majority of the time, and they're not doing it from any kind of. They're doing it in a way like we were talking about a minute ago, where they're being aggressive and loud and angry, and they don't have the facts on their side. Where hopefully, and I still get people every day who say, "Oh, how dare you? What are you doing? Mind your own businesses, etc., etc." But when you look at it objectively, it's the right thing to do.
No, I think so too, and I think that I mean, almost people might see this looking through TikTok and be like, "Oh, I better put my card away," so Sebastian doesn't come up to me and like tell me how I'm living wrong, you know.
It's funny how we get those comments, especially from parents who will say, like, "I was with my 8-year-old at Target, and then they said we better put our card away. The Cart Narcs will bust us," you know. And getting busted means ultimately it means nothing. Like, I can't do anything to you. I'm not going to hurt you or do anything other than, you know, call you lazy bones. But that social feeling of shame, because we are, you know, we're social animals. We are apes essentially. We learn how to behave by watching each other, and that's enough for a lot of people.
Yeah, psychologically speaking, it's the same thing as like putting like the village idiot in the square or whatever. You know, it's like the same kind of like concept of that. You know, without being out of hand could be crazy, but I think you're just doing it in a fun kind of way, and I think it's good. I think what you're doing is good, but I can see how that could be taken out of hand. With like,
it's really that's what I have learned from doing it. Is it's tone and approach are key. People say, well, someone else could copy you who has some YouTuber or TikTok person who has 1 billion followers could go out and do it. It's like 95% of it is not the idea, it's how you do it. And that's most things in life.
Well, yeah, if they ripped you off, it'd just be like 10% of your vision versus like, I mean, that's the difference between authenticity and like copycats. Like copycats can blow up fast, but I mean, there's no longevity in it unless they just keep copying everybody, and then eventually people get tired of that person. So it's just a bad, I don't know, energy wise. It's just. And what is your secret to staying calm? Are you like do you have any kind of like secret to like maintaining this calmness? Like,
well, it's my personality, I think, number one, and I've done a lot of this sort of stuff over the years, as far as just being out and talking to people in public. I do a lot of interviewing, like out on the street, you know, during the day, but also late at night when things can get ridiculous, rough and weird. So it's just, and beyond that, it's just repetition. It's just doing it more. I can't. Like I said, well, I'm sure it's, at some point it'll happen where something I've never seen will happen. But until then, it's just it's stuff I see a lot, so I know how to deal with it.
Okay, so it's not like meditation or like heavy marijuana use or anything like that. You're just like
there's no Buddhism going on necessarily.
Do you ever flip out, or are you just kind of this calm person, or is this just like you're on film, so you're kind of playing a calm role, or like is this like I don't know, like what makes you flip out?
Oh, the things that do annoy me the most are, and I know it's like equipment failure, is when, and it's happened a few times doing Cart Narcs stuff, where like, for whatever reason, something dies and you're screwed and you can't do anything about it. There were 2 videos I've shot. One, I forget where they were, Denver and Salt Lake City, where this guy was like threatening to run me over, and if he said if he didn't have warrants, he would kill me. And I had it on GoPro, and the GoPro a couple of years ago came out with this little thing that's designed to like get you better audio. It's got a little mini shotgun mic and a headphone jack. But as I found out then, it comes loose. And so I had video of this guy chasing me around his truck being nuts, but there's no audio. So worthless, essentially. And like, I didn't flip out at the time, but that sort of thing is the kind of stuff that really does piss me off when you just technical stuff, and when you don't have the tools you need to do the job.
That makes sense, man. And no, that is, you missed gold on that. If he was like being crazy, and like, that makes sense. And like, it all happens for a reason somehow, man. I like, it always happens to me too. Like, and usually I find out the reasons are like good later, Like it'll happen to me too. Like I messed up like an interview one time, like literally it didn't like save or something. I don't know exactly what the deal was. But then like I found out that guy was anyone that had that guy on a podcast, their podcast was like deleted. Like it was like
Jesus.
Yeah, it was like a weird thing. Like this guy, he created Vice or whatever. He was like the co-founder of Vice, and then he started this thing called the Proud Boys or something like that. And then like everyone like flipped, and like basically he became like a very controversial person. When I was just like strictly being like, oh man, what's like creating Vice like, dude? You know, like what's it like being a writer? And like he was like a part of this organization that like the government hated and like all this stuff later. And like it delete. I mean, I'm glad that episode didn't upload. We're saved now. You know what I mean? There's just weird things that I see like that. Like the universe actually helps you more than it hurts you. Is what I've
It's funny you mentioned that because I saw there were messages. That guy, I think his name's Gavin.
Yeah,
apparently he's a fan of Cart Narcs. Again, this is another person who's like, I know because I had some comment like so and so brought me because you'll see like, oh, I found your channel through a YouTuber or a podcast or on the TV, whatever, radio, etc. And he came up at one point, I don't know, maybe like a year or two ago. And I was like, well, damn it. I need like a mainstream person who, gets it to be behind me, as opposed to these people who have got problems like that guy.
Yeah, I don't know what I like a lot of his work, but I don't understand like really anything about these people. Like people get too caught up in politics and stuff, and like and they argue with their grandma about stuff. It's just insane, Like they got grandmas and grandkids arguing. If that's not the line, I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Just like I think people just need to focus on something else. It's like politics are just like not for. I don't know. It's just an insane world right now.
It goes back to what I was talking about. Like people try to inject politics into what we do, and I don't allow it because it's not about that. It doesn't need to be about that.
No, it's true. Yeah, it's about like just being a better person and making people laugh too. I think it's a little bit of both. So I think it is entertainment at the end of the day, but also, it reminds like what I kind of envision for like what happening for you is like almost like how Chris Hansen had that show on NBC about the pedophile thing. Like you almost can use that format for what you're doing with this, like to where not going to people's house, different settings and stuff, but you could use like the format of like that being a recurring thing where you like approach this guy like, oh hey, what are you doing? Like the kind of thing you do, and then like putting those together as episodes. I could almost see that being like pretty useful for a guy like you, and being huge, honestly. Because like if that gets picked up by a network or something like that, like everybody's it's showing on TikTok. The crowd likes what you're doing. It's just like where it goes from here, from my perspective.
No, we thought about that as about doing like an interview after, and it's funny because I was on Dr. Phil a couple months ago, and I was talking to their producers, and they said they had contacted like 18 or something people that I had confrontations with, and they'd gotten responses from like 3 or 4. And they had 2 guys lined up to come in, and last minute, day or two before the show, they both backed out. So the guy that did get actually to come on had he was not very good, quite honestly. And I didn't even know why they brought him on because my confrontation with him was very nothing. It was just it was 2.5, 3 years earlier. It wasn't really much of anything. And then the woman who would like hit me with drinks and stuff, she wouldn't come on other than to like write a letter to me about how she hoped God loved me or something. But I would like to be able to find these people, sit them down and have a conversation about it. Not even with me in the room necessarily until maybe later. But it's tough to do with people who aren't, media people. And Dr. Phil was totally on their side too. He was taken up for them. He did. It was weird. It kind of surprised me. I understand why he did it at the end, because if you had a bunch of people coming at the person who's not the quote, media professional, that would seem like bullying. Whereas if he came at me the whole time, it's more, it's easier to make me the bad guy, which is totally fine. That was a nice show. They treated me well. Besides being wrong about their attitude. But yeah, it's tough to get those folks to come out of their shells, but I would love to do it.
No, that's a great idea. You should almost interview these people like later and put these as like you should make like a TV show. Put it all in here, and then put their interviews with them like later as you're editing it.
Explaining themselves.
Yeah, dude, that would kill. Like that.
I think if you found them and offered them some money to like just sit down without me in the room or whatever, with a nice lady or whatever, they might agree to that.
Yeah, I think they would, and you wouldn't even need money in this day. Everybody wants to be famous, man. So I like everyone, you know what I mean? Like, and they don't care for what apparently. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think you definitely have like something like really good there. Like, it's clearly already killing it if you're doing all these shows and stuff, and like I got these numbers and stuff. But I'm saying like this could be like a TV show. This could be a million different things, and this is just like my 10 cents of like just randomly meeting you for 20 minutes during a podcast. But I literally think that could literally be the next move for you. Like
yeah, I'm up for it for sure. Yeah, but we got some things we're working on, so we'll see.
So if you work for ABC or CBS or anything like that, or Netflix, hit up Cart Narcs. They already have a TV show just waiting for you. It's waiting for you.
At the very least, and I must say, because even when people do get those things going, there's still a 1 in 100 chance that anything actually gets done. At the very least, we'll live online until I die or something else happens. But we'll see.
Yeah. Do you was this like your first kind of project that blew up, or is this like a thing that like you're a comedian or something? Or do you do other things as well? I mean, more or less.
Well, yeah, I do work here in LA in that capacity as like a producer for the Woody Show, which is a radio show that's in a bunch of different cities, but mostly here in
St.
LA.
Louis. I'm from St. Louis.
I was in St. Louis, and then came out to LA. Was in St. Louis again, not anymore, but anyways. So I try to give like an example of like how Jimmy Kimmel would do like live witness news, or he'd have his cousin Sal do pranks. It's one of those features that I do a lot of. That kind of, we did it for like a year, and it was fine. We were having a good time doing it. But then for the 1 year anniversary, I said, okay, because people like this, I'll make all of its own channels, and that's when it kind of took on its own. People were like, oh, they didn't see it as a bit for a show; they saw it as its own independent cause. And that's kind of where all of the notoriety came from. That's one of the great things the internet can do, is you can just do one thing on the internet. You can just do, there's a million YouTube channels with millions of followers who just do, making wood sculptures from, or furniture from the 1800s, There are all those super niche channels. And I think that's what YouTube, TikTok, etc. are good for.
No, I definitely agree, and that's funny that you're a producer of that show. Yeah, I'm from like Woody was actually on. It was Woody and Rizzuto originally, like in St. Louis, and like I'm in St. Louis right now, and like those. That's funny that's what you do. Because like that's small world, man. That's really small world. He kind of blew up when he went to LA, I think. Though, yeah, like he was already big here, I think, but he kind of
It was interesting to get into that a little bit. It was I think 8 years ago that he left St. Louis, came to LA, and they were having a tough time out here just because of I wasn't here at the time, but hearing them talk about it, just management was really rough on them, not letting them do what they wanted, and so on and so forth. And they hired me about a year after they came out, and then to kind of take let him do a lot of the stuff, and therefore you're not going to be on Woody as much as you'll be like, well, it's Sebastian doing stuff or whatever, and they can kind of react to what I do as opposed to vice versa. And I can bring in the outside world via interviews, things like Cart Narcs, et cetera, et cetera. And it's been great ever since then. They just signed like a 7-year extension a year or two ago. So they're doing great. We are doing great, relatively speaking. But yeah, and I think from what I understand, Rizzuto's still on in St. Louis there as well.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. I forgot there was some controversy with Woody. I forgot what it was, but like there's some controversy here with him. There's something, I forget exactly what he did or something. I want to say they did something. I don't know. It's just radio stuff, but like to me, it's just radio stuff. It's just entertainment. I'm not I'm not gonna like lose my mind over what an entertainer says when that's like what their goal is.
It's funny. No, that happens a lot with local people and mostly radio, because TV typically is going to be just the news. It's just they're not going to do something stupid. It happened actually here not here in LA, but in San Diego. There's this guy who he was in San Francisco, got fired. He got a job in San Diego, wasn't even on the air yet, and he put up some post on Instagram. And there's a very famous bridge in San Diego where people commit suicide, and it was like advertising his show. And he said, the new show, you'll jump for it, and with a picture of the bridge. And he got fired before he was even on the air the first day.
Oh man!
And he got hired. I think the same guy got hired here in LA, and he's doing terribly, but. It's stuff like that where people try to make a name for themselves by doing stunts or whatever, and sometimes it works, and a lot of times it doesn't.
Yeah, I can see both sides of things. I believe in like free speech and like stuff like that as an entertainer, but I think that like I get the point of why a company wouldn't want their name associated with like a guy telling people how they can kill themselves. I can see both sides of the argument. It's like I don't know who's right or wrong.
It depends on the city, depends on the attitude of your owner, of your sponsors. It happens in all industries.
Yeah,
or all entertainment industries.
Yeah, I guess sponsors would be the big one. Yeah, I don't think they would. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I don't recall exactly. I think the mayor came out against him, something like that. And it's tough to come back from that, especially when you haven't even started working there. You don't have any goodwill behind you.
Yeah.
There's a difference between, you've worked here for 10 years and you said something kind of dumb. You were trying to be funny, but it didn't come off all right. Okay, that's fine, whatever. As opposed to, you haven't even started yet and you're being a dick.
Dude, yeah, no. And like, I think a lot of like American institutions don't really use that as good marketing. I mean, I see that like, I mean, I guess it's kind of soulless to use that as good marketing, but I do think that like if a mayor is talking about a show and he's mad, that's good. You have and that hate that they have towards you can turn to like love later because it's already a strong emotion. So in marketing, that's like the best response you can possibly have is pissing off your audience, because like more people are gonna be like, oh fuck that guy, and like talk about each other, and they're gonna be like, oh man, I listened to this show earlier for like 30 minutes on my way to work. It was okay. No one's gonna say that.
I don't know what the full story is, but that's famously what Howard Stern said, is like they did some study and the people who hated him listened longer than the people, I'm paraphrasing, his fans, even the people who hated him to hear what he was going to say that they hated would listen longer than his fans would. So, it works for some people, it worked for Howard Stern, obviously. It depends on execution.
Yeah, and you got to have a plan after you get fired. You have to have a plan because the world is turning. But no, I feel like we talked forever. But dude, like you want to throw out some links and stuff, and like and then any kind of thing you want people that are listening or watching to kind of like check out that maybe.
If you want to, at Cart Narcs on every single platform. Like I said, if it's the shorter version stuff on TikTok. Even though they recently expanded to, I think, 3 minutes, so that I can put longer stuff on there. But YouTube's probably the best place because everything's right there in front of you in a grid. You can search by date or by view count, and it's the entire clip. So that's probably the most helpful if you want to take a deeper dive. But Facebook, Instagram, on the radio, Twitter, etc. We're on all those platforms.